Hello, everybody. This is Debbie Eno from Teacher Success Coach with another episode of Female Empowerment. And today I have got one of my guests from around the world who would be sharing her journey with us, another empowered woman who is on her journey. So she's going to be telling us about her journey and her story, etc., and why she is where she is. Welcome, 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 Isis. Thank you very much for accepting the offer to come on to share your journey with us and tell us more, as to why you why you start on that journey, etc. So introduce yourself and tell us where you come from. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
This is Moniz. I'm 28 years old. I'm Brazilian, and today I live in Oregon, in the United States. I'm a Brazilian tattoo artist, also business owner. I came from a very, very, very small town in the north of Brazil. I would say this town has maybe today around 20,000 people. Um, it was definitely a city that I grew up with a lot of taboos, a lot of religion. I saw a lot of young girls getting married at the age of 15 and 16. Yeah, in Brazil, legal marriage, it is legal when you're 16 if your parents authorized. So I saw a lot of girls marrying guys with 30 years old or more by this age, which also lead me to have relationship with much older guys than my age. My first relationship, I was 13 and he was 18 at the time. For me today, I say this just as a constant rape of 2 years, because for me it makes no sense what a guy of 18, 19 years old would be doing with someone with 13. Kind of expected to by the house that I grew up. My mom had a lot of issues related to this too. She was sexually abused, I guess, when she was a very young age. My grandma, I think she married when she was 13 or 14. Yeah, so like everyone very young. My mom, she was a mom at 16 years old. When I was 16, I dated a guy that was 27 years old. So my entire life, I have been in the hands of people that I should not be. So I think I have been abused in every single way possible. I would say sexually abused, mentally abused, psychologically, physically, not only by my partners, if I can call them this, but I don't think so, but also family and also friends. I did got a very late diagnosis for CPTSD, ADHD, and I'm also on the spectrum. So I do think all those diagnoses let a lot of people taking advantage of me when I was young, because you know how fragile I was since child. And alcoholic mom, been going through a lot, and the most recent trauma was I was basically almost killed by my ex-partner, and today he's charged with 6 felonies. I needed to leave the country that I lived before. I was living in Canada before I moved to US. So what made me to move here was because the trauma I went through, and because the person didn't let me have a life again after this. So, it's a life with a lot of things happening, and I'm very proud for being alive today. And I do think if people have a hard time, I had very different traumas, very different types of violence in my life. I think I experienced a little bit of everything. And I do think if people have some problems, they might could inspire me to see that there's light. after the trauma. There's life after the trauma, you know, it doesn't matter what trauma it is. You really
Mhm.
want to be alive.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you. One of the things you actually say, which was very, very powerful, that you are so grateful for being alive. I suppose because from where you come from in terms of your journey to where you are now, you realize how fortunate you are in terms of, uh, a survivor, if you want to call it that.
I think I think what helped me to give a lot of value and be grateful in my life was trying to see how people are much less fortunate than me. Like I I had the opportunity, I did study psychology for a year and a half, but I did not finish. And during this time, I had the opportunity to meet some people who was live in my city. A lot of people who barely had food to eat every day, you know, and their parents would just grab cans, you know, aluminum cans to recycle. And, you know, sometimes the money they had per day was like 50 cents, $1 maybe. And sometimes seeing people, six people living in a space of 10 meters, square meters. I think seeing people with a really bad life made me realize that I did not have such a bad life, I guess. I think even seeing that I went through so much violence, I still had a warm bed. I still had some food to eat. I was still healthy, you know, like I didn't have cancer, or I didn't have something more severe that I couldn't really fight against, you know, or at the time I could fight against what I was going through. And I have a dog that brought a lot of my light to my life. And I would say since I got her, she was probably the main reason why I'm alive today. I would say having a pet, it is essential, extremely essential for a victim of trauma and especially abuse, because it is, I think, is the first contact you're gonna have with unconditional love, especially if you didn't have this from your family. So my dog Fuku, she was definitely one of, it's crazy to say, but yeah, she's definitely one of the most powerful tools to keep moving, because you know I love her so much and I take care of her in such a way that I know that no one would. So this made me stand up every day, you know, take a shower and get for justice. I think I always want to have justice for what happened to me. And I think this last situation that I went through was the first time that I was able to speak for myself, that I was able to go after the law enforcement to search for something, because all the other situations, all the other abuse that I suffered when I was a child, my family didn't want to bring it to light or to the police because they didn't want to bring more attention to me. They didn't want to bring more problems to me, according to them. So when the situation happened with my ex, it was actually the first time that I could speak for myself. And I had some money to hire a lawyer, you know, and I think the desire to have the least of justice was something that kept me moving on for the last almost 3 years, I would say.
Thank you. How did that make you feel when you were able to have a voice?
That's right. It's good to speak when you cannot. I think my entire life in my relationships, I was extremely submissive for my family, for my partners. And it's crazy when the woman decide to stand for themselves and speak and be loud. It's one of the moments you're going to realize you're not going to have a lot of friends. A lot of people are going to hate you, and you're going to be very lonely. And, I don't have a lot of friends, but the ones that I do are very special. And I know that I can count with them for anything I need and I want to. But I do think that maybe a lot of women don't speak and are not loud because they know if they do, they lose a lot of people around them. And I think for me, I was always so alone. So for me, it didn't make a lot of difference losing more people. I would just continue alone.
Yeah. Thank you. Another thing is you say you have a dog. How long you've had the dog?
Fuku, she's with me for 8 years.
8 years.
Yes, I got her when she was 3 months old. So we have been through a lot together. This dog literally saved my life just with her presence around me. I cannot even count the amount of times that she just saved my life. So I do think it's extremely important for trauma survivors to have a pet. It can be a dog, it can be a cat, can be a bird, but I do think it's important you attach so much to something that you don't want to lose it anymore,
So how does the dog help you? Because you've said something which is quite important in the sense that it is important that victim of trauma have a pet. And what do you think the pet does for you?
Well, Fukushi has some training to kind of realize when I'm having an anxiety attack or a panic attack. There are PTSD service dogs that can help trauma survivors go through all the symptoms and also the treatment. But for me, not only this, when I was really depressed, I would have a hard time taking showers or eating or even standing up from the bed. But I know that Fuko needed to eat. I know that Fuko need to pee and poop, and I need to walk with her for this. And because of this, I needed to stand up from the bed. I needed to go walk with her. I would need to take shower, and I would need to go to the supermarket to buy food for her. So even though I wasn't eating very well and I wasn't taking so many showers as I would do usually, it was important for me, because my therapist always say, first worry about the 3 main things: sleep, hygiene, and food. If you can eat, if you can sleep, and if you can take care of yourself, like taking a shower and brush your teeth, those are the 3 main things you need to care about first. So, the therapy was essential for me to not demand so much for me, because I think after every single event in my life, I was expecting to get back to my normal life with 2, 3, 6 months. And so far have been almost 3 years, and I still going through a lot, dealing with a lot, and it will probably take a lot more years for me until I feel normal again, if I feel normal again, which I don't think will ever happen. My brain went through much trauma since I was young, since I was a child. So I don't think my brain will ever function like a normal person. So yes, that's it. Like Foucault helped me, do the basic tasks when I wasn't able for this. And I think being able to do those 3 are the first steps you need for anything else moving forward,
Thank you. Say something which, I question. You said that your brain would never be normal again. What is normality?
Right? I think
Exactly.
I think normality it is depend on the person you're asking it the
Exactly.
answer. But I do think when I say normal, I think I'm referring more how your brain it is supposed to function. Like we have I forgot the name in English, but a very specific area on your brain that when you go through a trauma, this area get inflamed, and it's what you make you live on flight or fight mode. And I do think I live on this mode 24/7. I can never really relax. So I think when I mentioned having a normal brain, would be a brain that's not a Christmas tree living on fight or flight mode.
Mhm. Yes, but through counseling, you would eventually have less of the fight flight situation, because it would start enabling you to stabilize the fight and flight that you're now experiencing, because it's a matter of trying to not trying to relax it. So the more you're in counseling and therapy, the more you're going to find coping strategies, because bearing in mind that you just come, all your life you've gone through trauma, and all of a sudden it's like now you're trying to sort this trauma out and bring it to the forefront and start dealing with it. So therefore you are going to be, you'll be in the flight fright mode anyway, until you start finding various strategies to deal with it. And one of the things is, when you look at where you came from where you are now, and as you say, you feel really grateful for where you are, the fact that you've been alive. And it's interesting when you talk about this dog, because a lot of schools are now taking on dogs that support the children with anxiety and trauma, because they realize that having a pet on site is very, very important, especially for children who are going through PSTD, or children who are going through anxiety or trauma or panic attack, because the pet really does stabilize them. So in terms of
the pet is really important autism kids too, right? They have a really good influence on kids on the spectrum.
yeah, so in terms of having a pet, most this is the fourth school I've actually walked in where they have a dog on site, and it is so lovely because the dog is so calm.
Well, they even do have the dogs on those hospitals visits, right? Like those kids on cancer hospitals, and they have those dogs that come once in a while, do some therapy, because I think, I'm not sure, but they did some research that the dog visiting those kids, like brings some happiness and some, like a good moment on their day. Even though they're spending 24/7 in the hospital, it does help a lot with the treatment.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's essential.
Yeah, thank you. How do you empower yourself?
Could you give me like an example?
you know let's say, one of the ways you say you empower yourself was, knowing that you have to get up to support your dog.
How I empower myself, but in which area of my life?
In
Because
any area of your life, you
um
pick.
I did think today I try to treat myself how I would like to be treated by other people around me. So do I try to treat people how I would like to be treated by them? And I do think self-care, it's very important today. I like to take some time, to take care of my skin sometimes, or take a hot warm bath or shower, a long shower. Empowerment for me, it's taking some time for myself when I don't want to be around people. Invest on my career, on my job, on my free time, and also talk about my life and share my experience with people around me. I think it's some way of empowerment too, when you can help other people with your experience. So I do think there are different ways that I empower myself today, and it goes from self-care to spending time on my own, or maybe spending time with my friends, or investing some time and money in my career, or my job, or also in a hobby, because I do think it's very important you have things you like to do. That is just not work.
Thank you. How do you think that your journey would help other women?
I think every time you see someone who went through a lot, and doesn't matter what type of trauma or violence, we have over 8 billions in the world right now, like, right? 8 billion people in the world. And I'm sure that at least one person is going to identify with your life, with your trauma, with your experience. So I I do think, not only because of my life, but because the type of violence I went through, I would say some of them exclusive violence that only woman will experience in their life. Um, that's why I think I could help other women, maybe if they see, wow, I'm going through something similar, if she can do it, I can do this too. Like we spoke before, I brought this to my life. I like to see, when I see someone coming from nothing and getting there, or a woman living a situation that wasn't good for her, or overcoming a really big trauma. I think whenever you have tips to share with other people to also help them overcome their trauma, it is help, doesn't matter. So yeah, I do think when you share your trauma and life and experience, other people can relate and maybe use you as example to try overcome their problem or their trauma too.
Thank you. One of the things you said was, you were you felt so empowered when you were able to take your ex to, when you were able to get a lawyer so the lawyer could actually support you on the case. So is the case still going on? What's the situation with that?
Criminal case is still open. He left the US and went back to his country in Canada. And since that, he never show up in person, for the hearing. So he could never be arrested or anything like that. He was charged with 6 felonies, which includes kidnapping, first degree, coercion, strangulation, and 3 counts and battery resulting in essentially bodily harm. He never showed up for trial, so there's a arrest warranty for him. So if he ever come back to US, I believe that he would be arrested the first thing he step in US, or even in Canada. Not sure how it would works. Or if he is extradited from Canada, which I don't think is gonna happen. I don't think they care so much about the domestic violence case to extradite him like that. I did have a lawsuit open against him, which I won, and he owes me a lot of money. We are trying to enforce this judgment in Canada now. And there is another lawsuit that he opened against me for defamation, but it's still going on. I cannot speak a lot about it, but I mean, it's ridiculous. I wish him luck in court, because he needed to prove that I'm lying and what I'm saying is not true.
Thank you. So how do you feel in terms of knowing that he's out there and he's not paying for the crime?
Frustrating, right? And the amount of money that I spend so far, it is ridiculous. It is truly ridiculous, the amount of money that I have spent so far. And the amount of times that the court failed to arrest him or, do anything to protect me. The amount of times that the Canadian government failed to do anything about the situation, but not only the support the abuser. It is very frustrating, and I do truly understand why the majority of the women do not go after this. First of them, it is financial reasons. For my luckiness, I had a lot of money saved, and I do not have kids. I do not need to be attached to any city. I can work whatever I want, whenever I want. So it helps a lot, which it's like it was a big thing for me to be able to be where I am today. I can see my privilege with my work. I am very blessed with the work I have. And a lot of women who go through this, they have a kid, they are in a marriage, they are financial dependent from their partner. So the system doesn't make it easy for women to go after their abuser. But I can tell you, if you go, you're not going to regret it. But I can see why it's almost impossible when you do this, especially if you have a child. Because it doesn't matter the abuser you went through, the justice probably will keep the dad in contact with the kid, which will also keep you in contact with your abuser.
That's very, very true. So as a result of that, it means that you can never completely cut tie with this abuser.
No, and I do think sometimes feel that he's just open a lawsuit like that to keep in contact, because I don't know, he has no reason to make believe the court think it was a defamation, and I think even when you try to cut contact, if you are with a narcissist partner, with a sociopath, they will not let you cut the contact too. So it's not easy. And I needed to move to another country to cut completely contact with him. I needed to get a restraining order. And I truly believe that the only reason why I never saw this person again, it is because if he comes here, he would be arrested. And that's the only reason why I never have seen him again. Because I'm pretty sure if I was in Canada, the situation might have been different. Because while I was there, I had people going after me on my work, and it was not a nice situation.
Okay. So even though you were the victim, you were still victimized.
Not only by him, but by the system, right? Like all the violence that I suffered after the crime, I blame him for what happened. If I lost my house, if I needed to move to another country, if I needed to sleep on floors and to be able to rent a house, if I was scammed in a city and I lost a bunch of money in an Airbnb, it's because of him. Because I needed to move out from my house. I needed to leave my job. I needed to leave the city that I lived, because the things he was putting me through it. And not only this, now I'm being re-victimized by the Canadian court when they open a lawsuit for defamation against me. And anyone can open a lawsuit. Prove this is another thing in court. Anyone can open it. But just the fact that, I'm almost sure that UK has a very similar law in Brazil called Lei Maria da Penha, which allows you to report the violence on your country of residence, doesn't matter where happened the crime. So if Canada had this law at the time, what would have happened? The crime happened in Las Vegas. We was from Canada at the time. We both lived in Canada. The crime happened in Las Vegas. I would go back to Canada. I would call the police and I would let them know what happened. And they would make a police report. He would be criminally charged in Canada because this law allowed the government to recognize domestic violence crimes committed in another country. And why? Because domestic violence doesn't occur just at home. This doesn't happen just at your house. This doesn't happen just on your bedroom, on your city, on your state, and on your country. And that is why there are laws in Brazil, and I believe UK has very, very similar law, which allow you report domestic violence case on your country of residence. So, you know, it is frustrating because when I went back there, it was like, oh, I'm sorry, we do not recognize crimes committed in another country. But, you know, they do if US ask his extradition to extradite him, you know. So there's a big stuff, there's our steps to follow before another country recognize this crime committed here. It's not just like, oh, hey, we have here the charge. Can you see it? It's not like that. And it's how a lot of people think it's how it happens, you know. So when I was in Canada, I did have a restraining order, which the Canadian police refused to enforce, claiming that it was from another country, so they couldn't do anything, was out of their jurisdiction. Same stuff for the criminal charge, it's out of our jurisdiction. So, you know, when I tried to speak about it on internet, I have the Canadian police calling me. It's like, look, if you continue posting it, you're wrong. You cannot do this. This is harassment. I was like, how the hell is harassment? I'm literally speaking facts of a crime that happened to me, you know? So it was very obvious that they are not there to protect the victims. And, you know, so it's not only the lack of money, it's not only, you know, if you do not have a child or if you have a job, you can have the lawyer, you can have the money, you can have everything. Sometimes the laws are just not there for you. And, you know, we live in a world created by men for men. Laws that was created by men to protect men. So this word was since always created for men, to men, by men, you know. It's and recently we started to get some rights, you know. 100 years ago, we couldn't travel alone in Brazil. If we wanted to do an international trip, we would need to have our husband signing the passport, authorizing us to travel. And it's not a long time ago, not too long ago. And, you know, not gonna start to speak about positions, woman working as a doctor or lawyer or whatever. We still not having so much space like that.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Wow. So it's a situation where he still is not charged. So therefore, it is still, it's, you know, you still feel incomplete, isn't it?
Yes. You know, like, even though I don't regret anything I did, because now he cannot come back to this country, which stopped him to hurt millions of people in one country. And doesn't matter what he does, he will continue having an harsh warranty for him. And he will continue having criminal charges waiting for trial for the rest of his life. This case is not gonna close. This case is gonna continue open. And I made sure to be loud, and I made sure to speak about it, because now people know who he is, and other women can protect themselves from him, can avoid having a relationship with this person who has a huge mask and can use this mask for a good amount of time until it falls. And the only reason I always spoke about the situation was to help other women to not be in the same spot that I was with the same exactly person, since this person is still, free in terms, not completely, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that. One of the things is, when you are reporting the case, what were some of the obstacles that you find?
What?
When you were reporting the case, right?
Mhm.
What were some of the obstacles that you find? What were some of the obstacles that was put in place that didn't make it easy for you? The fact that you had to, to use a lot of your money to bring the case, right? What were some of the challenges that you had?
You like the it was easier navigate through the American system because the crime happened here, and even though they failed it in the first moment when they released him initially, I cannot complain a lot about the American system because they did something even though they could do more. But the Canadian government, they fail it completely. They don't have any laws to protect the victim of domestic violence there. And it starts by when you want to require a restraining order. Since my restraining order could not be enforced in US, I couldn't ask for a protective order in Canada because he never had beat me in Canada. That's what I heard from the police. He would need to have beat me in Canada, so then I could get a protective order.
Right.
But I could get something called a peace bond, which it's kind of the same, a protective order. I'll come to the court, I'll explain the situation and tell the judge why I deserve it. But my abuser have the right to go to the court and defend himself about my claim. So it's kind of ridiculous because, again, you're being victimized once again by the court when they're putting you standing in front of your abuser to sit there and say, look, I need to be protected because the son of a bitch is charged with 6 felonies in another country and you guys cannot see it. And it's still, you're putting him in front of me and telling me that he have the right to defend himself. That's bullshit, So when all that situation happened, I received so many messages from Canadian women in such a similar situation. And well, one of the major, it's that they're not going to keep arrested for so long, right? So I think a lot of women have the fear to put them in jail, put their abuser behind jail. They get arrested for 2, 3, 5, 6 months, and they are free again. Stalking, going after the person, making threats. And how you're going to report someone that you know is going to be free in 3, 5, 6 months and is going to come after you again? A piece of paper, a protective order, never stopped my ex to contact me and break the protective order. The protective order never stopped my ex to drive around my place and break the restraint and the protective order. I think the only thing that stopped these people from doing what they do is when they kill us. That's kind of like when the law do something. It's when we are dead, actually, the most of the times. And that's what the number shows, the numbers show that we only get any help when we're dead. So that's the main issue, especially not in Canada, but many other countries. Again, I was an annoying victim. I would call the DA. I would be in contact with them. I would keep calling, sending messages, emails, asking updates. I am for it, and I won't stop until I see this asshole behind jail. That's when I'm gonna stop. When I see him behind jail, because what he did to me, it's what he deserves. It's jail. He don't deserve to be free walking, being dating apps and dating other people. No, he should be in jail, paying for his time. After he finished this, maybe we can talk, the justice can say, like, well, maybe you now have a chance to be free and live your life. But that's not what he deserves now, even though I do not think this type of people has any type of socialization. I don't think they get better, and I don't think they will ever change, in my opinion. In my truly opinion, I do think a guy who lay a finger on a woman like that, he will absolutely never change.
Right. So in situation like that, do you think in terms of, you say he would never change. So what should we do in terms of, rehabilitation?
Fuck no, these people should die inside jail, rot inside jail. For me, 3 types of criminals should rot inside jail. They should never be resocialized. It's rapists, pedophiles, and woman beater. I don't think these people can change ever in their life. They won't. Doesn't matter what type of treatment. And I do also not believe that any type of like chemical castration is enough, because it's not about using their penis to cause pain. It is about causing pain. So I don't think these people should ever be living in society ever after they get caught.
Thank you. Do you think it's when you say causing pain, do you think it's a power thing that's causing them to?
Oh, absolutely. It's about being, like the alpha, because I use this as an example, because in Brazil we have a lot of cases of women being raped with piece of thing, like the guy put a piece of wood inside her, the guy like a pipe and put inside her. So it's all about being in power, like the lady there screaming for the life, being submissive, and it's about this. It's not about their penis. It's about being for sure. All those types of violence, domestic violence, rape, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, it's always about power. And, I can do it because I can.
Right. What suggestion? Thank you very much for that. Finally, what suggestion would you give to any woman who are in your situation right now, or who have been in your situation and know that they've got to report the crime? How would you encourage them, and what would you say to them?
Say that doesn't matter how much you think you can change the situation, you won't. And the first step is getting away and cut contact completely. And therapy, I believe there is a lot of resource in around the world that offer free therapy. There's a lot of NGOs that offer this type of support. If you do not have a safe place to stay, please search for a shelter, a friend that might help you. But the first change need to start on yourself, and it's about wanting to be loved. And I think the most of us who go through this type of violence are so desperate to get love that we're willing to accept anything to be loved. But, love shouldn't be painful. Love shouldn't hurt. Love shouldn't bleed. And I think when you realize that, life changed. I had the opportunity to surround myself with friends, with people who support me, support my goals, support my life. And the moments that I wanted to miss people who hurt me, they made me sure to remember what they did to me, to not miss them, you know. So surround yourself with good people who support you, who love you, who truly love you, and who can protect you from the people who are abusing you. And sometimes it can be a friend. My family today are my friends, and they are the most important people. They are essential on my bad days. You know, no one is happy every day. No one it's smiling every day. There are days are going to be hotter than others. There are days you don't want to stand up when you're bad, and that's okay. Take one day at a time. You know, start by the basics: eating, taking a shower, and cleaning yourself. And after this, you can figure out the rest. Step at a time. Don't demand too much from yourself. If you don't want to see anyone, that's okay. If you don't want to date, it's okay. If you don't want to be tortured, it's okay. If you don't want to talk too much, it's okay. It's okay. Take your time. Do everything on your time. And if people cannot respect it, they don't deserve your presence. They don't deserve your friendship, and they don't deserve you. And I think that's it. When you decide to love yourself and you start to create boundaries for, like, be selfish. That's it. Be selfish. It is moment for you to be the most selfish version of yourself. Be selfish and just care about how you feel, how you are feeling right now, because you need to be selfish after something like that. You need to care about you, yourself, your feelings, you know, everything about you. So yeah, I be selfish.
Thank you very, very much for that. I wouldn't even say be selfish, you know. I'm going to say, well, claim your power, stand in your
Yes.
power, love
Yeah, I
unconditionally.
say, yeah, I think I say selfish because a lot of people treat like that, you know, like when you decide to create boundaries, when you decide
Yes,
to love yourself, and when you
yes,
decide to respect yourself, people call you selfish. So
yes.
then be whatever you need to be to take care of yourself, and you know, just
Thank you very much. You are so right, though, because it's like when you start showering yourself with self-love, self-care, and saying, well, myself is first, second, and third, people, right, you're so right that people begin to see you as being selfish because they see that you are, especially when you start putting boundaries and you said, no, I don't want you to call me at this time. I want you to call me at this time. I don't have time to see you right now. I'm going to see you in the next few hours, whatever. Yes, people then begin to see it as selfish. It's interesting because I was dealing with a client this week, and that's something she was saying, that she now began to pour into herself because initially she was helping everybody. Someone would phone her up and say, oh, oh, I need so and so, and she's going to, forget about herself and give them the time they need, find the information for them, send them copies, email it to them, and make sure they have that. But when she's doing that, who is seeing for you? There's nobody, you know.
definitely a people pleaser who put all people interests in front of mine, just to try to do everything for everyone, to make everyone happy. But you know, I want to be happy too.
Exactly, exactly. And who is there to make you be happy? Who is there to support you? That sometimes you have nobody. So that's why you have to be reflective and say, okay, this is my time. I am going to spend it.
Something that I do every morning. I do have like a board on my room that I have a pray, but it's like it's a self pray, I guess. It's something that I read every morning, every day awake, and it have been helped me a lot. And things like, I am beautiful, I am successful, I am empathetic, I am talented, I am rich, I am hot. And you read those things every day, it helps. It helps say good things for you. I do believe a lot in law of attraction, and I do believe that everything you think and you say, you attract for yourself. So, you know, again, a lot of positivity is also toxic. No one is happy and no one is positive every day, but you can be positive to yourself. You can be nice to yourself. You can compliment yourself. And I do think it makes a lot of difference at the end of the day.
Thank you so very much, Isis. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
So I think like, whatever woman who wants to follow my journey, they can just see my Instagram. But you know, after the rain, that's something I always remember. After the rain, always come the light. Sometimes it's a long, dark, gray rain, but the sun will always come after the rain, you know?
That's powerful, because after the rain, there's always the rainbow. After the heavy rain, you always see the rainbow, and the rainbow is something that gives you, that gives you light.
Then, like, after always a big trauma or a big bad experience in my life, always something really good happened to me. So maybe it's something that always keep moving on, knowing that something really good is gonna come soon after all this go away, you know.
This time shall pass.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I repeat this for myself a lot too. It will pass. This too shall pass. Everything, life is experience. We're here to experience life, and everything happens for a reason. You know, take it as a lesson, as experience. Take what is good and what is not good. Let it go. But you know, I do believe that we're here in this world to grow, to be a better version of ourselves. And sometimes some things happen for a reason. We don't understand why, but I do believe everything happened for a reason. And just try always take the good things from it. I do think I never asked it to be a strong woman, you know, but I do believe that my experience led me to this, and I'm very proud of my strength today.
Thank you so very much. I really do appreciate you spending the time to come and share your journey with us.
Inviting me.
Greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. And thank you, my Facebook people. And I'll see you guys on Friday when I'm looking at homeschool, home education. And I'll have another woman, well, it's a woman. I've seen this, a woman, because I've seen the picture, who would be sharing her journey with us in terms of her homeschool education. So join us then. Take care, people.